Hi, welcome to Crypto Ramble. I'm Desiree. I'm sure you've seen the headlines about the IRS sending about over 10,000 taxpayers letters warning them about reporting their virtual currency transactions, that is crypto. Apparently, there were multiple versions of these letters sent out. Some were mild and some were requiring a signature stating that the taxpayer was in compliance with all tax laws. I have a copy of one of these letters here. It's one of the milder versions. It's 3 pages long, and I'm just going to go into it. I did read an article from the Wall Street Journal explaining that the IRS might have obtained the information on who to send these letters to based on a lawsuit that happened with Coinbase, where they were fighting against the IRS to hand over the information from all the people who were registered with Coinbase, but then they won that by only giving the IRS taxpayer and ID information for users who had traded up to over $20,000 worth of crypto between 2013 and 2015. So that's just a possibility. The IRS hasn't actually stated how they found this information, but it's sent in order to let people know that the IRS has their eyes on them. So it's just a warning. Anyway, so it looks pretty official looking. This is it, but I can't show actually all the information because it's private. As a disclaimer, this is not mine and this is just a copy of it. Dear John or Jane Doe, while we're writing to you, we have information that you have or had one or more accounts containing virtual currency but may not have properly reported your transactions involved in virtual currency, which include cryptocurrency and non-crypto virtual currencies. What you need to do. After reviewing the information below, if you believe you didn't accurately report your virtual currency transactions on a federal income tax return, you should file amended returns or delinquent returns if you didn't file a return for one or more taxable years. If you do not accurately report your virtual currency transactions, you may be subject to future civil and criminal enforcement activity. For more information, visit www.irs.gov/filing. When filing amended or delinquent returns, write letter 6174-A, capital letter, at the top of the first page of the return. Mail the original amended or delinquent return to Internal Revenue Service, 2970 Market Street, Philadelphia, PA 19104. Reporting virtual currency transactions. Virtual currency is considered property for federal income tax purposes. Generally, U.S. taxpayers must report all sales, exchanges, and other dispositions of virtual currency. An exchange of a virtual currency, such as Bitcoin, Ether, etc., includes the use of the virtual currency to pay for goods, services, or other property, including another virtual currency such as exchanging Bitcoin for Ether. This obligation applies regardless of whether the account is held in the US or abroad. More information can be found on www.irs.gov and in Notice 2014-21 found at, there's a link, which describes how general tax principles for property transactions apply to transactions using virtual currency. Yeah, it says letter 6174A 06-2019 in brackets in the footer and catalog number 72597M. So I guess those numbers mean something for documentation for the IRS, but maybe you could look them up online. You must report virtual currency transactions on your return regardless of whether you received a payee statement for the transaction, such as a Form W-2, Form 1099, etc. Common schedules for reporting virtual currency transactions include the following. So these are just the regular schedules, like if you run a small business or if you're an independent contractor, and I think there's one if you make investments. So there's Schedule C. If you were an independent contractor and received payment in virtual currency, you must report it in gross income for the amount of the virtual currency's fair market value, measured in US dollars as of the date and time you received the virtual currency. Gross income derived by an individual from a trade or business carried on by the individual as other than an employee is reported on Schedule C. This constitutes self-employment income and is subject to the self-employment tax. For more information, you can refer to the instructions for Schedule C. Schedule D. By the way, I'm aware I say schedule and not schedule. It's not a mistake. That's how I pronounce it. Schedule D. If you sold, exchanged, or disposed of virtual currency, example, Bitcoin, Ether, or used it to pay for goods or services, you have engaged in a reportable transaction and may have a tax liability. These transactions may be reportable on Schedule D. On the tax return, report the virtual currency received at its fair market value, measured in US dollars, as of the date and time of the transaction. You should maintain and review all transaction records, including bank, wallet, and exchange reports and statements to determine your basis, amounts received, and other information needed for reporting on Schedule D. For more information, you can refer to the instructions for Schedule D. Schedule E. If you received supplemental income in the form of virtual currency, including income from rental real estate, royalties, partnerships, S corporations, estates, trusts, and residual interests in REMICs, I don't know what that is, I'm going to look that up right now. Real estate mortgage investment conduit. So if you receive supplemental income, including income from rental real estate, royalties, partnerships, S corporations, estates, trusts, and residual interests in real estate mortgage investment conduits, you may need to report this on Schedule E. On the tax return, report the virtual currency received at its fair market value, measured in US dollars as of the time and date of the transaction. You may also need to file supplemental forms, example Form 8582, Passive Activity Loss Limitations. See the instructions for Schedule E for any other circumstances that may apply. For more information, you can refer to the instructions for Schedule E. And then they have additional resources. By the way, I'm not a lawyer. All I'm doing is reading this. I don't understand all of it fully, but most of it. So you can go somewhere else to find that information. But this is just reading what the letter said, and this is the milder slap on the wrist form of the letter. So it says additional resources, Publication 17, your federal income tax for individuals. Instructions for Form 1040, U.S. individual income tax return. Instructions for Form 8949, sales and other dispositions of capital assets. Instructions for Form 1041, U.S. income tax return for estates and trusts. Instructions for Form 1120, U.S. corporation income tax return. Instructions for Form 1120-S, U.S. income tax return for an S corporation. Instructions for Form 1065, U.S. return of partnership income. You can get the forms, instructions, and publications mentioned in this letter by visiting our website at www.irs.gov/forms-pubs or by calling 800 tax form 800-829-3676. I feel like I'm advertising for the IRS right now. You do not need to respond to this letter. Note, however, we may send other correspondence about potential enforcement activity in the future. If you have questions, you can call the hotline telephone number shown at the top of this letter and leave a message. We'll respond to all messages within 3 business days. Thank you for your cooperation. Sincerely, Brian Steernagel, Program Manager. So that was the letter. I guess I can just give a couple of my thoughts on this. I do think that they are trying to put crypto into a box, and what they're asking of people in terms of tracking every little transaction is a little unreasonable in my opinion. But we'll see how this all plays out, and I am giving absolutely no advice in this video. I was just reading this letter. If you like my content, subscribe, and thank you for joining me. Have a good day. Bye.